7 months after Washington announced tough restrictions, Chinese companies are doubling their own supply chains and receiving billions in cash from Beijing and investors. Last October, plans to build a huge semiconductor plant owned by a large state-owned company in central China collapsed. The Biden administration escalated the trade war over technology, cutting off China's access to Western tools and skilled workers needed to build the most advanced semiconductors. Some employees with United States citizenship left the company. 3 United States equipment suppliers almost immediately suspended their supplies and services, and Europe and Japan are expected to do the same soon. Nearly 7 months later, United States trade barriers have accelerated China's push for a more independent chip sector. Western technology and money had gone, but government funding was pouring in to develop alternatives for producing less advanced but still profitable semiconductors. And China has not given up producing high-end chips. Manufacturers are trying to work with old parts from abroad, not blocked by United States sanctions, as well as with less advanced equipment at home. The tough United States restrictions were prompted by anxiety over what officials in Washington saw as the threat posed by China's use of its technology companies to modernize its military arsenal. Under the October rules, United States businesses and citizens can no longer help Chinese companies developing chips that meet a certain threshold of sophistication. The controls went beyond the Trump administration's trade restrictions, which were imposed against specific companies such as Chinese telecommunications giant Huawei. During these early trade frictions, Beijing mobilized huge sums to create alternatives to Western chip makers, but foreign components were readily available and of higher quality, making many Chinese firms reluctant to switch. These fears about using materials from China seem to be waning. Chinese technology companies up and down the supply chain are evaluating how to replace Western chips and related components, even those not subject to United States control. Guangzhou Automobile Group, a state-owned electric car maker, said in February that it intends to eventually buy about 1,000 chips for its vehicles from Chinese suppliers. The company currently buys 90% of its chips from abroad. Now, China's goal in many areas is to de-Americanize its supply chain. Dozens of Chinese chip companies are finalizing plans to raise funds through public offerings this year. These include China's second-largest chip maker, Huahong Semiconductor, as well as a Huawei-backed chip tool maker. The technology dispute between the world's 2 largest economies is not about to subside. The Biden administration has drafted new rules that will restrict United States venture capital investment in advanced chip companies in China. Foreign investment in China's semiconductor sector has already fallen to $600 million this year, the lowest since 2020, and officials are mulling tighter controls on technologies such as quantum computing or chip-making equipment. United States restrictions have forced Beijing to activate a state fund that has been inactive because of waste and bribery. The government's big fund invested about $1.9 billion in the EMTC in February to support its response to United States restriction. The fund also recently invested in chip equipment and material suppliers. The new subsidies aim to remove Western components from China's supply chain. This year, the southern city of Guangzhou has earmarked more than $21 billion for semiconductor and other technology projects, including those that attempt to replace Western chip suppliers. According to corporate reports and press statements, purchase orders for Chinese-made equipment have risen sharply in recent months. So far, less than 1% of all semiconductors in China are at the top of the industry and subject to United States control. The rest are less advanced or mature semiconductors used in everyday consumer electronics and cars, and make up the vast majority of business. China's 2 largest chip makers, the government-backed Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation (SMIC) and Huahong Semiconductor, have announced billions of dollars this year to expand mature chip production. In the long run, however, China's lack of access to the world-class tools needed to produce chips could stall its progress in many cutting-edge industries, such as artificial intelligence and aerospace. International companies that previously invested in China's semiconductor industry are directing their investments elsewhere. Leading Korean and Taiwan chip makers are investing billions of dollars in new production in the United States. A Taiwanese chip maker is applying for a United States subsidy for its Arizona plant, forcing it to limit its investment in China for a decade. At the same time, the easing of foreign influence on China's chip sector is creating opportunities for domestic companies. Last month, the semiconductor maker went public in Shanghai. Shares of Crystal Growth Energy Equipment have risen 30% since its debut. The recent surge in government money could increase China's share of global low-cost chip production. In the next decade, China could account for roughly half of global production capacity for the mature semiconductor class. This could create new supply chain vulnerabilities for foreign companies. Thanks for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel and write your opinion in the comments.